On Dipty's with us here on set, newspaper time, must be. We're talking about these guys, first of all, on the front of Le Parisien, a very ugly, very public fight in Johnny Halliday's family, that's them, about his money, isn't there?
It's always about money, isn't it?
Usually.
It's also making the fun of some of France's magazines like L'Obs, you see in the inside Johnny, Le Scandale on Héritage. It really is the scandal about his will. The late French rocker died in December, of course, but his family continues to fight about his fortune. In his last will before he died, he left his entire fortune to his last wife, Laetitia Hallyday, and their 2 adopted children. He completely excluded his 2 elder children, Laura and David. The 2 will be now asking a Paris court for the right of inspection of Halliday's posthumous album and for the freezing of his assets while French courts decide if they are indeed entitled to some of his wealth.
OK, we shall see what they decide. Now, another paper now, Libération. This is weighing into the diplomatic tensions between the UK and Russia after Theresa May expelled Russian diplomats over the poisoning, of course, of that former Russian spy.
She expelled 23 Russian diplomats coming after the poisoning of Sergei Skripal and his daughter, which is an attack being blamed on the Kremlin. She's also temporarily halted bilateral relations. She's forbidden the royal family from attending this summer's Football World Cup. Really, very unprecedented decisions from Theresa May, something that has not been seen, according to Libération, for 30 years. They're warning that she's pushing the pawns of a Cold War. And as we see in the international press as well, there's this whole terminology around Cold War version 2.0. Anyway, Britain is retaliating, as this cartoonist from Libération says. You see here Theresa May forcing Vladimir Putin to drink tea as he cries out, "I'm innocent, I'm innocent." Obviously a reference to the age-old tradition of drinking tea, but also you'll remember that poison tea killed another Russian dissident, Alexander Litvinenko, back in 2006, which is also blamed on the Kremlin.
And Le Figaro is looking at how British police are actually opening up cold cases as well now in the light of this.
Well, there have been numerous cases of Russian dissidents being poisoned or killed. Skripal's poisoning was followed by the hanging death of Nikolai Gluchkov, another Russian dissident, in the UK on Monday. That brings the tally up to 14, the number of Kremlin dissidents who've mysteriously died in recent years. Gluchkov was close to another man called Boris Berezovsky, a notable Kremlin critic, who himself was found hanging in 2013. So Le Figaro also evokes the death of another man, Alexander Perepilichny, who died while jogging near his home in 2012. It's believed he too may have been poisoned beforehand. And all these men may have figured on Putin's hit list for revealing scandals linked to Russian officials. It's clear, though, that May's reaction is a sharp turn away from previous British governments, which have preferred to play it safe and avoid accusing Moscow.
Let's come back to France now for the next story. France is bracing itself today for some pretty widespread demonstrations expected from pensioners. This is against a tax increase that they say would lower their spending power.
Well, Emmanuel Macron wants to hike this tax up. Le Figaro calls it a massive, unfair blow inflicted on the elderly. I quote, "If Macron doesn't respond to their demands, he risks not only isolating a voter group that largely contributed to putting him in the Élysée Palace, but he could also highlight a geographical and generational bias towards the elderly." Macron, for his part, has responded, according to the website L'Obs, asking for a little effort to help kickstart the economy. We've heard this before from the French president as well. He told them that, I quote, I need you to make a little effort for those who are working, otherwise there won't be anyone to pay your pensions. He added, "I can't please everyone. There are some who whinge and whine and who don't want to understand. That's France." Not sure those comments will go down very well with any of the voters.
No, we'll see how many people demonstrate today. A couple of lighter stories for you. First of all, Le Parisien, a new trend in relationships in France.
Well, in the country of love, it appears that it's better if you don't wake up to your loved one every morning. That's according to a recent French study. A trend that began in 2015 continues growing upwards. 1.2 million French people who are in relationships live separately, Stuart. Not necessarily long distance. They may live live in the same area, but just choose to have their own place. It affects 60% of people under 35. Surprisingly, it affects a lot of elderly people over the age of 80 as well.
That's interesting. Well, my wife never wakes up next to me because I'm always in here. So there you go. And finally from Dipti, authorities spending €1 million on building a new tunnel in the west of France, but this is for animals.
The regional paper West France explains that a highway constructor was proudly explaining that they're building 2 eco-ducts in western France, 2 tunnels that are 39 meters long to allow hedgehogs, badgers and weasels to travel safely on our roads. They've even planned for vegetation, some guiding stones to help them get into the tunnel, and protective nets to prevent them from being hit by vehicles. All of this for a cool €1 million.
Oh my goodness, expensive but sweet. Dipti with the papers on France 24. Next half hour, Haiti, we're reporting from, bringing in 120 police to try to secure the bridge which joins it to the Dominican Republic. It's estimated 30,000 children from Haiti have been crossing it illegally every year, all part of child trafficking, prostitution and organ smuggling. That's after the break.